Salutations, my friends. Salutations. Salutations. I gotta read out this comment real quick while the music is going. Courtney, I hope you're listening. I want to let you know that your comments are read and you are appreciated. This comes from one of our listeners. She says, I want to listen, but please get rid of the random background music. The mic is already fuzzy sounding and that just makes it worse. I can't take the information this way, but I really want to listen and support. Your written material is fantastic. The podcast needs work. Well, Courtney, I'm saying that as the background music is going, because that's kind of how life is. You kind of have to move it forward regardless of whatever is happening in the background and adapt over time. And I appreciate you listening and trying to take the time to listen. I understand our material is both heady and our delivery method is definitely unorthodox, but that should not discount what we are actually saying. And with that being said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into this edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noise Era, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and we are on our alternative page, our backup page, our podcast page, Factions of Freedom, because we're unable to go live on our primary page, Freedom Faction. They say that, you know what, here, let me see if I can just do this now, because we got 2 strikes within 2 weeks of going live already, so let me just see if I can go live now. They'll update me, let me know if I can't. I'll do this before you guys. Yep, nope, same situation. They're saying that I'm unable to go live until August 8th, so I will be here before you guys on this backup page until then. So get comfortable. Which leads me into what I'll be talking about at the start of this transmission, my censorship, launching the web app, operating on different platforms and things like that as well. But before we get into that, a few quick updates. We're back from our break. And right there, are you banned for posting fake news? We're banned for telling the truth. And if you believe everything social media and the internet tells you, then I'm sure we could be misconstrued as fake news. We're back from our break, and one of the reasons why we're over here on our alternative page is because of just that right there. Being shadow banned prior to, we've been underneath heavy censorship since at least like 2015. There's no reason, this is why we've had to diversify the message and diversify the content, simply because they don't want it getting out there. I'll put it to you this way. If we weren't a force, if we weren't something to be reckoned with, if we weren't catching recognition, USA Today would have no purpose on our page. And so, rather than sitting here bragging and talking about all these types of things, I want to fly through a few quick updates, talk to you guys about ways that you can support this operation, and then I'll get into the topics. The description right there in the description bar, patreon.com/Freedom Faction. If you guys want to support the operation, you can do so by going there. This will play a huge and critical part whenever we do launch the web app and eventually develop the iOS and Android app. But before we do so, I want to get started with the web app. I want to get people over there, drive some of the traffic over there. because we're getting censored every day. Our posts are getting taken down every day. If we're not connecting the National Institutes of Health, their studies on how 5G can actually potentiate coronavirus, if we're not getting called out for exposing Bill Gates, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, and the like, if we're not having posts taken down because of that reason, it's because we're saying something. So we need you guys to support us as we begin to take these next steps in our development. Like I said, we've been censored since 2015, and we're just now beginning to talk about the development of a web app, so that we don't have to stay reliant upon things like Instagram, Fedbook, and more. So yeah, join our patreon.com/Freedom Faction exclusive member service to help with the construction of that. The shirts you see me guys wearing right now, wham blam. This is brought to us by the good folks over there at American Warrior Apparel. I don't walk around with a mask. I walk around with this bandana and let people know how I feel. These are some of the people that support us, and this will play a huge part too. Like I think a lot of people kind of trip out as to why we have to do ads and promos and stuff like this, and why we have to go develop a separate app so that we don't stay tied to this corporate culture bullcrap. This is why we need like individual support. This is why I say vote with your dollars, vote with your lifestyle. This is why I'm trying to figure out a way to not necessarily energize or activate the audience, but so that you guys see what happens whenever you do donate your money. I talk like 5 or 6 years, several years, like it's nothing, but that's because of where we've evolved to this point. And so when I'm starting shows off talking about, our t-shirts, our storable goods, our vitamins, our nutrients, our supplements, this is because we're able to stay on the air doing these things, creating a culture, not necessarily opposite of this mainstream corporate nonsense, but separate, so to speak. You see, so you can find this shirt over at American Warrior Apparel. You can use Freedom Faction, get 20% off. I'd go into New Leaf Naturals, but I don't want to spend too much time pitching about things. I want to briefly fly through some of these topics, and then we'll get started with them. We will be doing a 2-hour show. In the second segment, hopefully people will be joining us with questions. I will be reading people's questions so you guys can kind of see what I get to choose from every single week. But here are a few of the topics. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about my censorship, the Illuminati, hiding Joe Biden, the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party invasion, sex trafficking, Jeffrey Epstein's temple looking like a Hollywood set. I have a video for that. And if we have time, this might be something we talk about in the next segment. But UFOs, the recent Pentagon disclosure of UFOs and things like that. The reason why I find that so interesting is because I talk time and time again about coming in through all of this from the paranormal and the UFO aspect. So very interested to talk about that. Given 10 Fly 10 says that your live is so choppy, I want to watch so bad. Take your time, Given 10 or Fly 10. It'll be available on our feeds afterwards, so just take your time. Ugh. So let's get into our censorship. Why are we being censored? Because our posts violate community guidelines, because we must be doing something right. I talk about us being censored since 2015, covering Jade Helm 15, the Ferguson riots, potential martial law drills being done all the way back then. I talk about us being like Shadowbanned and censored even all the way back then. But I think that should really paint a picture to people as far as the current landscape we're in. They call it fake news. They call it misinformation. These days they fact check us, right? That's because, and I talk about this time and time again, for some strange reason, they're using us as a model for what they're wanting to deploy out there on social media. The way that we're able to just, we don't do it so much these days. Whenever I first started out, I was having people from all over the world and all different walks of life, Christian, military, law enforcement, random civilians, business store owners. I was having all kinds of different people from all different walks of life send me videos, right? sending me the strange videos of military equipment moving like all over the Southwest, all over the Northeast, all over the country, seeing like seeing people in military clothes, combat people in plain civilian clothes gear. You're like, what the heck is that about? So that's our inception. That's how we started, right? Trying to figure out what the heck's going on, using social media what it's for what it should be, right? Creating a network of information and acting as a hub so that people can get a good generalization as to what's going on. We've been censored since 2015, man. And that's why we've had to diversify the information, because you, the audience, deserves it. So when I say that we're launching a web app, that kind of means like, hey, I'm launching a life-saving raft out here into the ocean. I have no idea where the hell it's going to take me, right? All I know is I can't stay here because it's burning down. I can come back here once it's been burnt, for sure, but I can't stay here during that incineration. You get me? That's what the whole idea behind launching the web app is. I think for me, my like OCD, perfectionist type self, I want something that's like similar to Instagram because we're all familiar with it. We have the post style that people are adapted to, things like this. It's going to take time for us to get to that level of efficiency, is the easiest way to explain it. And that's what I mean by trying to figure out how to migrate people from Instagram onto this new web app that we will be launching. And again, this all literally comes from us not wanting to operate on these primary social media platforms. It's only a matter of time until they decide to kick us off. Like I say, 6 to 7 years, like it's nothing, but that's been a grace period that we've been allotted, especially due to all the other things that are going on right now. You know, the fact that we didn't get taken down whenever the Free Thought Project got taken down, the anti-media got taken down. I've had pages on Fedbook back whenever it wasn't broken that reached around 300,000, and you know, we didn't get taken down during that point. We got taken down 4 different times on Fedbook, 3 different times on Fedbook, 4 times on YouTube, and we're still here on Instagram, somehow being able to operate. So I say all of this, guys, because this is my history. I think people, because we have new listeners and followers every single day, I think people have a misconstrued version or a misconstrued approach as to why we're saying the things that we're saying and why we're doing the things that we're doing. But again, that only comes from ignorance, and I'm just here to kind of clarify that. So yeah, man, that's what happens whenever you're shadow banned, is you have to innovate. You have to diversify. You can't stay stuck in the same rut. Your stupid actions got you there. You have to change. You get me? And this is me talking to you guys about what is required of us in this position to change, because we've evolved into the position that we're at now. Again, we have people that join and follow all the time. People think, oh, he's got all these followers, he must be he must be a lot better off than he is. That's not the case. And so that's all, man, is I just try to be as honest as I can whenever I explain these things and break it down and show you guys the trajectory that we have to take. I think that's kind of why, just over time, we've gotten a lot more comfortable with the actions that are necessary to take in order to get the information out, because that's what it's always about. Shadow banning will lead to innovation and the diversification of the internet. Corporate culture takeover. So I mentioned this briefly at the start of the transmission, you know, the fact that we're not necessarily dependent upon you guys in order for us to operate. But I mentioned this before I took the break, that I was listening to Jesse Spot's YouTube channel, and he recently moved into an apartment, and you know, he's got his little McGriddle over there, and he's making all kinds of food, and he's like, hey man, if you guys want to donate, that'd be super nice. And I thought to myself, while I was pulling out my PayPal card about to donate to himself, shucks, why am I more willing to donate to this guy when I can't figure out how to get my own audience to work with us, to donate to me? I'm not over here cooking something in my McGriddle saying, hey guys, if you feel like it, donate to me. I'm not saying that shit. What is so different about what we're doing? You get what I'm saying? This is that corporate culture takeover. I could easily shoot to the top if I said, you know, F Donald Trump, if I said all the trigger words, right? All the things that everybody wants to hear right now. But because I'm literally explaining this pro-human, Renaissance-based future, this conscious revolution, so to speak, we cannot cater to these ideas that further domesticate us or further rob us of our rights and individuality and creativity. So when I'm talking about this corporate cultural takeover, this kind of comes from a lot of people that being indoctrinated, not thinking for themselves, not wanting for themselves, not building for themselves, not thinking, not innovating. Where we have a lot of stagnation right now. Like I've been hearing this talking point, and it makes so much sense, right? Mark Zuckerberg made Facebook whenever he was 19. Well, where are the rest of the Mark Zuckerbergs? Why did we stop innovating after Facebook? Why did we stop innovating after Twitter? Why did we stop? Now the country shut down. There's no more school. You see what I'm saying? Why did we stop innovating? Why are we not moving forward? Because this is sustainable development. This is Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. This is that global corporate cultural takeover. I'll talk more about this when I talk about the Illuminati and the different types of warfare, the cultural warfare that's going on. But I kind of want to put this in here right now to get people to think, hey, listen, I'm here in front of you because you want me to be. You have fought for me to be here. You've shared the works, you've commented, you've done something that shows, hey, I want this guy in my feed somehow. And if we don't figure out a way to take that same mentality and expand upon it, we're going to get swept up underneath the rug. And that's okay to some degree, but then again, what's the point of doing this? To get out in front of it, to explain to people what's going on, to break that spell that they're underneath. So let me talk more about that corporate culture takeover. I really feel like I'm missing stuff there that I need to get out there to the public, that this is what happens whenever you have an entire multiple generations that go to TikTok, that go to Fedbook, that go to YouTube and Twitter to literally get programmed, okay? You don't have people who are thinking for themselves. You don't have people who are employing critical thinking skills, right? Who are now realizing the mask isn't for your actual safety, it's for your compliance, it's for you to submit, it's a sign of your submission. We don't have people actually employing critical thinking skills. We have orders being shouted on down from top and us enacting them. I mean, like, good Lord, Fauci go into this to this baseball game having the mask up underneath him shows that the mask doesn't really work. It's not for everyone. The mask is for the peasants. It's for the paysans. It's not for everyone. It's to shut people up. Let me move on, because I'm already moving on to the brainwashed people, indoctrinated followers, people losing their minds, sheeple type stuff. I'm glossing over the corporate culture takeover. I'll come back to that. But that's basically what it boils down to, is brainwashed people, again, and I wouldn't necessarily say brainwashed people, man. I would say radicalized and polarized people who are just in such a frenzied state of mind, they can't think clearly. It's like you get in a fight with, let's say you get into like an argument with your girlfriend or with your significant other or whatever, right? You're both yapping at each other, carrying on like children. You're not really hearing what the other person's saying. You're just saying stuff to say stuff, becoming irrational because, well, that's the flavor of the day. No one's actually slowing down to figure out what you're talking about and what you're saying. You're just coming at it. That's where we're at right now. We have people who are not necessarily brainwashed, but radicalized and polarized. You got to think, we're coming off of, like I said, the George Floyd protests. It's being told to shut up, sit inside our house for multiple months, traumatized over the fear of this virus. You've got to think about, again, the mental health state of people. So of course they're gonna go do the next thing that they're told, because they've already complied for so long. They don't know anything else. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think we're expecting people to do different things when we're all doing the same thing. That's what happens when you follow the masses, as you lead yourself up off of a cliff. But because you have a bunch of order takers, a bunch of indoctrinated followers, a bunch of people who don't want to rock the boat, who don't want to ask questions, they're going along with this. But see, that's the paradoxical statement in and of itself, dude, is that there are people who know this mask mandate nonsense is a bunch of nonsense, and so they're becoming truthers like ourselves who are seeking out answers, and they are the true silent majority. I got to think about this. People are losing their minds because again, they've been lied to. I forget, I think it's like Edward Bernays who said, we'll know our agenda's complete whenever the people can't trust anything the media says. People are losing their mind because they've been lied to for so long that they don't know how to think for themselves, that they don't have critical thinking skills, logic, reasoning, discernment. And I get it, because of fake news, misinformation, all the other stuff that's out there, people have this hesitation towards learning something new. But that's a part of it as well. We are forced, to a weird degree, we're allowing for us to embrace this ignorance. We're making information like, ugh, scary. I don't want to think. Ugh, just go along. Understand how dangerous this is? You got emotional and stupid fucking people running around telling you to do things when they don't want to think for themselves. Do you understand like how dangerous this is? That's what I mean by people losing their minds, because they're not themselves. Sad truth. They're a part of a collective. They're part of a Borg. They're part of a hive mind. They can't think for themselves. Well, because CNN told them to, right? CNN said, hey, these are your orders for the day. Make sure you get everybody else to get on board. Donald Trump said this, therefore you do that. This is what I mean by polarized. If you get people to consciously reject new information, embrace that cognitive dissonance, consciously reject that new information, you can make them want to be stupid. You can make them want to dumb themselves down. You can make them choose to become followers. And I thoroughly believe that's where we're at these days. If you go out there and go talk to people, I'm sure you will experience whatever it is I'm explaining to you guys. So here, to move on from this topic, let me begin to read to you guys some of everybody else's questions before we move on to talking about the Illuminati. I wanted to generalize this conversation, so to speak, because let's just say I have to take like another week or two to get my like brain fired up on all cylinders again, man. It takes a lot to get this brain of mine moving. But here, let me read to you guys real quick a few quick topics that people wanted me to talk about. They said, if martial law is declared, what does that mean exactly and when? They also want to know when martial law will end. If you want the truth, I don't think it will end. I think that's part of the dread and the fear of us all putting off the martial law, is that people know that it won't end. The military won't give up their power. I mean, look at what they've done over there across seas for years, dude. They're not going to give that power back to the civilians, especially with all this nonsense going on. Somebody also wanted me to talk about gain of function research and Dr. Anthony Fauci's ties to it, HIV and COVID. Yeah, if you do research into Dr. Anthony Fauci, you'll see that he has ties to the lab there in Wuhan, funded by Bill Gates. He funded gain of function research, which is illegal. It's basically, just think of like a steamroll effect to where it progressively gets worse and adds on different characteristics to the virus. Dr. Anthony Fauci funded that, researched that, as well as took place in some of the HIV trials that happened back in, like, I think the 80s. Yeah. He's a scumbag. Tell Americans that governors can't make laws and mask mandates aren't laws. They're recommendations. Yeah, see, the governors can't make laws. Cities can't make laws. That's like the kid saying, okay, mommy, this is what we're going to do now. Okay, little Jimmy, this is what we're going to do. It doesn't make sense like that. But because people have no understanding of civics, no understanding of rights, no understanding of the law, we're blindly following this. I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I had a busy morning, and so I went back to my gym. I was like, because the girls weren't there today, and I don't like drilling people that I like. So I went to a different gym and I talked to basically the corporate people there and said, okay, so what's going on? Where's my wiggle room? Say I have asthma or some type of medical condition. Can you guys put this into my account to where I don't have to wear a mask? I kept it 1,000% with homie. I was like, talk to me. Man to man. What is my wiggle room? Am I allowed to come up over here in a gym and come work out? He says, I'm sorry, man. You know, at first it was government mandating it, but because they rolled that back, it is now corporate. Corporate is enforcing this, and that's what it comes back down to when I was talking about the corporate cultural takeover. You see what I'm saying? They're having us jump, wolf, and fake and beg for these things, only for them to dial back, but by the time they dial back, it's already been adopted into the social and the cultural new norms. You get what I'm saying? So I'm at the gym, I'm talking with homie, I'm like, hey man, shoot me straight. Like, is there any way for me to get around this? He says, you know, I'll be honest with you, bud, I don't think there is. He's like, even if you came in here, we could put it in there that you have some medical condition, but because these are the new regulations of the club, you have to have your mask. And I'm not wearing a mask, you know, I'm over here like with the bandana in his face, asking him like, yo, bro, can I rock it down here? He's like, oh, well, you can have it there. You can have it there as you're moving from station to station and drinking water, but the minute you begin to wake up or the minute you begin to work out again, you have to put it back on. I'm like, my friend, that's nuts. We're already over here chucking steel around for multiple hours. Why would I want to sit up over here and suffocate myself for an additional 10? And he's like, I know, dude, it doesn't make sense to me. He's like, I have a high altitude mask, ... It divulged. It diverged. The point is this, it's gotten to a point to where we're taking our grievances up against a wall. Like, I think that's kind of what everybody's kind of gradually beginning to realize is we all have problems, we all have issues with what's going on, but it's the same way whenever you call one of these tech support lines, we're getting the corporate line, we're getting the corporate spiel. Just wear your masks, shut up and just wear your mask. Obey. It's like that classic movie, that John Carpenter movie, If They Live. Obey, obey. That's all the mask says. Let me continue to read more of these questions. I got all triggered about masks, mandates, and things like this. What state is safe to move to? I wish I could tell you, my friend. I wish I could tell you, Vanessa. I think this is a more poignant question. Movements to join / actions to take in Canada against tyrannical mandates and loss of freedom. I think the better way to answer this and that previous question is to say this. We would like to think that there are freedom-loving individuals and people that care about like your individuality, your kids, your future, like everything like that. No, man. No, ladies. These are scumbags. Okay? Like, we joke about beta males. We joke about Karens. We joke about Kens. We joke about these people. I'm explaining to you the mental health epidemic that's coming, or borderline already here. The wicked and sick and degenerate state of mind of people right now. People don't care. Like, I was reading an article yesterday about why Black Lives Matter as a Marxist organization wants to destroy the nuclear family. So when you have a pseudo-populist movement being funded by foreign organizations which are designed to destroy the very fundamental and foundational principles of humanity, what does that mean? That means that people don't want to be wholesome. That means they don't want to be decent. They don't want to be kind. What are movements to join? What I'm trying to say is you've got to do this. You've got to go out of your way. You've got to start a freedom faction. You got to start a Canada faction, right? You've got to start your own, and it's going to be hard. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be rewarding. You're going to create like a whole separate culture that's divested away from all of this. You're going to be able to recognize the tentacles of control trying to whip its way into your life, and you're going to fight it back. You go find movements that haven't been compromised, like the ones that there's an organization they might be listening and or following, or listening right now or watching, but the Freedom Angels. Unlike Hell's Angels, these are mothers who are actually about patriotism, freedom, and getting people their rights back. That's the type of stuff you want to work with. We need to start exalting these groups that have these pro-human qualities to them. I remember having on Charles Kastner, Truth is Terrorism, like maybe last year or the year before last, and one of the things that we had talked about was a family rights movement. My God, that's where we're at. We are so far down the shitter that we need to have a family rights movement. So here, let me read this question because I have a whole list of topics here that I need to get into. I'm just getting literally triggered trying to go through these. I'm trying to read these briefly to you guys to show you the range of questions that we do get, and sometimes why it's hard to pick a set amount of questions. Somebody wants me to talk about asteroids, the decimation of America, the second lockdown, is it permanent? I don't know what the YouTube video is. They say, do you think that they are trying so hard to get the Clover gender their rights? So, moving on. Black goo, an interdimensional anti-consciousness matter or something. Look into the works of Harold Krauts-Valla. Yes, go look into the work of Dr. Harold Krauts-Valla. He's on YouTube, does a lot of work, a lot of videos explaining what, and I forget what the term called is, but yeah, Black Goo. I did an episode with KB Visions on our radio network, On the Wake Up Radio, where we did a whole show on Morgellons, Black Goo, and how it is a interdimensional anti-consciousness matter being used to rewrite humans. Very, very fascinating stuff. I would highly recommend you to go look at it. Ghislaine Maxwell, sex trafficking, Epstein temple built like a Hollywood set, hiding Joe Biden, Project Bluebeam, and more. Yeah. So those are all of people's different types of questions that we get to choose from, and we have to kind of put together every week in a legible fashion before we come before you guys today. So now we're going to be talking about the Illuminati. That's what people want me to talk about. You know, I think what is so interesting to me about not necessarily the Illuminati, but the concept of the Illuminati, right? The idea that there could be like this small cabal and this group of people want to think it's the Jews, this small group of people that have like immeasurable and incalculable wealth and immeasurable influence over the world and are controlling things. Why not spend time trying to rebuild Africa? If you go look at Africa, Africa looks pretty beautiful to me, man. Shoot. But the very concept of the Illuminati, I think that's what I find so interesting, is that people can't believe that there is an Illuminati, but they can't fathom the concept of a small group of people concentrating enough power to control the world. I find that so fascinating. And the reason I say that is because I want to talk more about what I would consider the new Illuminati, right? The technocrats, big tech, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, what's his name? Twitter guy, Jack, what's his nuts? Not Jack Parsley, Jack Dorsey. There you go. All these different type of people, they are the new Illuminati. Yeah, for sure. I think people can recognize the Illuminati as a concept and a construct when they talk about things such as the deep state, a organized group of people embedded within different and secret types of government. I think people can get behind that. But who controls even those type of people? You get me? Just the other week, whenever they were destroying all of those statues, I talked about how one of the only statues that they brought back, or the only statue that kind of got told to be left alone, was the Albert Pike statue, who wrote the book, of course, Morals and Dogma, which is required reading for most Freemasons. So when we talk about the Illuminati, I think about who is orchestrating all of this. We're always asking, why isn't George Soros being arrested? Why isn't Bill Gates in jail? You know, why is Hillary Clinton still around? Why is Obama allowed to operate? Why are all these things going on? It's because they are allowed to. The whole world's a stage. You get me? And that's who's controlling all this. This is order out of chaos. When Trump came into office, I talked about how he is designed to trump in the technocracy. And over the course of the years, he is. Oh my gosh, this is happening. How did you get yourself kicked like that? That's so crazy. I love when people love to announce themselves this way. But anyway, trumping in the technocracy. We were talking about how once Trump got into office, I didn't know how, I didn't know what he was going to do, I couldn't explain it. I just knew that the actions he was going to take, whether it was meeting with Bill Gates, whether it was meeting with Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, or any of these other type of people, he was designed to bring in this whole new form of government. We were always wondering, why isn't Obama using Twitter? Why isn't Obama using social media or any of these type of tools at his disposal? Because he wasn't the president that was supposed to. Trump, in his ivory Trump Tower, his gold tower, was supposed to do that. He was supposed to send those orders on from high and then create this change over here. So when we talk about the Illuminati, we really have to understand, what is that concept? Should be talking about dudes over here at the Bohemian Grove. That was another topic. Dudes over here at Bohemian Grove dressed up in just like robes, praising Baphomet and Lucifer. Should I talk about that, or should I talk about what they actually represent and how to this day we are still seeing that very same faction operate in front of us? So let's talk about hiding Joe Biden. Joe foot in the mouth Biden. Why are they hiding Joe Biden? Why did they remove Bernie Sanders? Okay, now when we reported on this, before I jump on Bernie Sanders, I've been wanting to say, or on Biden, I've been wanting to say this about Sanders since all these protests went down. We reported on this. Project Veritas released a video of people within the Bernie campaign saying that if Bernie lost the nomination, we're going to burn this country to the ground. That very same, not campaign head, but that very same campaign up underneath Bernie has said that running gulags isn't bad, bro. And for people who don't know what gulags are, they're basically work camps where they basically work you to death. So they got rid of Bernie, right? They're exalting Biden. But why are they hiding Joe foot in the mouth Biden? Because he'll get the nomination for sure, but he'll be declared incompetent because he can't finish a sentence. He'll open his mouth and talk about black people, and he'll just be told to shut the fuck up. Just please sit down. And then they'll have to disqualify him and bring somebody else. Who you think they're going to bring up? Hillary Clinton? Michelle Obama? Because that's definitely like in the talks. They're talking about it. They're saying, well, shucks, who can run if Biden can't? Why are they hiding Biden? It's because they want to make this entire, let me come at this from a better angle. Fear is a powerful motivator. Fear is a powerful motivator. Uncertainty is a powerful motivator. You see what I'm saying? Fear is the ultimate motivator, though. You're either going to vote for Trump or you're going to vote for Joe foot in the mouth Biden. And so when you have an entire, I don't want to say generation, but an entire nation of people that have been, as I said before, polarized, traumatized, and now they're confused. Now they're scared. They're going to be like putty in your hands. They'll do whatever the hell you want them to do. It's not about Biden. You see what I'm saying? Joe Biden, if anything, symbolically represents what we're talking about. Delusional people. Delusional people who were so disconnected from reality that every time they open up their mouth, it's like half a gaff. But they feel so virtuous and emboldened by the things that they do that they can't see that every action they take further destroys what little progress they've already made. Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, when you're dealing with delusional people, any type of interaction is going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You get me? And Joe Biden represents that, like, as a whole. And I'm not trying to say, oh, vote Trump, oh, screw Biden. I'm just trying to say these are the options before us. These are the options before us. Now, speaking of Joe Biden, why are they hiding him? Not because of his ties, his child's ties, Hunter Biden's ties to the, what is it? It's like the oil manufacturing company over there in like Ukraine. But they're also hiding his ties with communist China. Yeah, China would love to have Joe Biden as a president. I forget like what his, what he said recently, but he basically said that, yeah, he said, women hold up half the sky, which is a Chinese saying, a communist Chinese saying as far as like women need to work too. But he was saying it in such like a clever way that unless you knew how these people were speaking, you couldn't catch on to it. But here, let me talk about this, because the next part in the Illuminati is the Communist Party invasion and what communism's goals are. This is kind of why you guys have seen me. This is kind of why you've seen me over the course of this year and the past few months begin to talk about what is Marxism. What is, like, why should I care about communism? What is fascism really? Like, what is socialism? Like, why should I care? This is why you guys like try to. This is why I'm figuring it out, because it is a part of an ideological subversion. Okay, so let me talk about that. The Communist Party invasion. We've spoken about it before. You know how how there's been infiltrations in academia, infiltrations in Hollywood. Oh, new notification: Trump administration to reject new DACA applications. We've talked about the Communist Party using slave labor in China. We've talked about them beheading Muslims. We've talked a lot about China as a whole, because they are a force to be reckoned with. But one of the things I'm very curious about is how they've gone from how they've gone from somewhat of like an agrarian society to becoming like a world superpower in a matter of essentially like decades. And I think this is why it's underneath like the Illuminati category, because this did not happen naturally. Something happened, be it the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, whatever. They went over there to China, gave them whatever, and now we're having to deal with this. Now we're having to deal with that same, not upward mobile force or that industrialist force, but we're having to deal with that same consolidation of power and consolidation of wealth force being deployed upon us. You see, that's why we're having to rediscover what it actually means to be American. We have to recreate all of these different things, because some of it's being taken and given to other people. This is why Apple has moved to China. This is why Google has moved to China. That's why all these things are here. So what's going on with China, with the Communist Party invasion? You know, just the other day, they shut down one of their consulates, or we shut down one of their consulates, and out of retaliation, they shut down one of our consulates. What's going on with China? I talked about this before Trump had even come into office, that we were going to go into a trade war with China and a proxy war with Russia. And we're in the midst of it right now. We're in the midst of it right now. But let me see if I can approach this the right way, because I want to explain like how communism is taking us over, but I want to at the same time explain how there was a void created there just for this moment to come over and for us to be taken over. You know, one of the things we're very interested in over here on the podcast and on the page is spirituality, not necessarily mysticism, but occult stuff, the paranormal, supernatural, and things and stuff like that. We have had our foundations, our morals, and everything taken from us to where we no longer believe in the very thing that would define us as Americans. We don't believe in God, we don't believe in country, we don't believe in family, we don't believe in any of these things. We believe that the government should take care of everything. We have been effectively told that we're non-essential, and that the government is essential, and that our activities are deemed not essential. We don't push for rugged individualism. We don't push for creativity. We don't push for pro-human. You know, we don't talk about legacy. We don't talk about history. We don't care about these things. We just think government is God. We think Trump, you know, the God Emperor Trump, he's going to save us, and there's nothing that we need to do. This is not the foundational principles that America was built upon. Period. Less government. Period. Get that shit away. Less government. Think for yourself, do for yourself, and if you got some extra, help out your fellow man. What's happened now is we've been turned into slaves. Taxes are out the yin yang. People are so broken down mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, they don't care. You got people over here collecting more on unemployment than they would making money, working. But see, that's the problem. People are working low-end jobs thinking that this is what they should be doing for the rest of their life. But you see, that's a part of it. They have effectively killed the incentive in order for us to be productive individuals. That's like it's a deep-rooted socioeconomic and socio-political issue what I'm explaining on, and that's why it boils down to like the spiritual nature of people. People are not happy. People are not well. They're not driven. They're not focused. So they don't want to share this, right? They don't want to share their wealth. They don't want to live in this grace, right? This is where donations come in. This is where charity comes in. Is this not what America was? We were producing so much that we were just like, take it, dude. I don't care. I'll make more tomorrow. I'm glad my little bit of extra gives you such joy. A perfect example is this. We stopped working here in America for months. How many people you think died in the third world? Let me look it up. Third world deaths. Let me look it up. Third world deaths. I know this sounds rude. You got all kinds of YouTube videos on Super Mario World and 1,000 Ways to Die. I think it was somewhere around 9 million people that had died whenever we stopped working, and some people unable to get health care because of the whole hospital situation. So like, let me explain to you real quick. Like, when the first world doesn't do shit, the third world dies. That's like what we wanted to be number one, and we wanted to be successful so that we could help out other people. That mindset's been erased from us. We don't want to help out people. Better yet, we've been weakened. We want other people to come help us out. Yeah, I need to get. It doesn't show me. It just shows me like what the cause of death is. Anyway, I'll have to do like a whole separate transmission on that, where I break down like how many people died from the course of February into June because people didn't want to work. Like, that's how food banks work. That's how all this stuff works. When you have excess, you give it. You don't hold on to it. There are entire economies built on the excess that we create. But because we don't want to be excessive, because we don't want to be excellent, extraordinary, we don't want to go out of our way anymore. We're living hand to mouth. We're all living paycheck to paycheck. We're all keeping the bag real close. And guess what? That's going to affect our culture. That's going to affect our mind. That's going to affect everything. Do you think with the world that we're creating right now that there will be a third world? What was the last charity donation you gave to? And I don't mean a GoFundMe, a donation for food, to help a child out, to help out a mother, a father, a family. So yeah, that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. So let me get back into this. The cultural warfare, why we have had our principles robbed from us. Why they can openly say, oh, no borders, no wall, no USA at all. America sucks. You suck. There is no God. Your God is dead. Think about this stuff, dude. Like, think about what we are subjected to. The very idea that you want to be patriotic, it's like shunned. It's like, oh, you care about things. You care about the country. You care about yourself too. About scumbag. Put your mask on. Ugh. This is the degenerative thinking that we're beginning to entertain. You get me? That's why this is so dangerous. I got all Twitter-baited. Let me talk about how New Age mysticism has robbed us of the foundations where radical politics has replaced them. Does this make sense? It's, oh no, I don't. God, shucks, man, he's too judgmental for me. Ugh, I don't want to be held accountable for my actions, right? There is no God. There is no such thing as right and wrong, right? That moral ambiguity. You see where this is leading? There's an old saying where it says, you scratch an atheist, you get a Satanist. And wasn't Karl Marx? It's either Karl, yeah. No, Charles Darwin was an evolutionist, and I think Karl Marx was an atheist. Yeah, these are the people who were promoting these ideologies that we're supposed to adopt. something that's godless and doesn't recognize the divinity of man or the purity of nature. It's like, good Lord, this is dangerous. But let me speak more on this, right? The moral ambiguity, the moral, like, oh, the wishy-washy. It's all good, nothing matters, right? It's all cool. We don't need to care about anything. Where do you think this type of mindset is going to lead? I remember having on a guest on the show, Craig Fitzgerald, where we were talking about the history of communism. He talked about how, EJ, we are living in the previous generation's degeneracy. Our children will live in the degeneracy that we don't fix right now. So when I'm telling you that it's a gradual point where we've been led, that over time our values have been systematically destroyed, uprooted, thrown out the window, and told, oh, that's archaic. To the point now, you have people saying, we want to destroy the family. And that's like, oh, that's so woke. That's so woke that you want to destroy the family? Let me help you. This is where we're at right now. Big Papa Jose says chaos, precisely, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with agents of chaos. We're dealing with degenerates. We're dealing with people who want to destroy things. A couple years ago, I came up with a term called Deconstructivism. Deconstructive. Not reconstructive, not productive, but deconstructive. It takes part, or it's in that weird time period where you're being demoralized and you want to destroy things. That's where we're at right now, where we're being told, hey, destroy your institutions, destroy your gods, destroy everything that you hold sacred, just so that they can come through, order out of chaos, and reconstitute the values that you think are important. Manufacture your opinions, manufacture the outcome. And that's where we're at right now, destroying institutions, taking down statues, destroying the family, right? Destroying everything. Precisely. Destroy the fundamentals. Destroy the very pillars that uphold society so that they can rewrite society. That's why this is so dangerous. That's why I call them eracists, not actual racists, e-racists. That's what I mean by cultural warfare. What I mean by, if we don't fix this, our children will have to live in they will have to live in this. Precisely, Kid Alex. It is 1984, where we're living in a permanent present, where they're able to destroy the history and manipulate the future. That's why they call us fake news, regardless of if they'll come out the very next day validating everything we said the day beforehand. Doesn't make sense, does it? Because we're in an upside down world. This is the inverted world. This is why they call it the new normal, clown world. You see, because I hold on to logic. I hold on to critical thinking, reason. I'm not going to be told what to think. I'm going to go out there and form my own opinions. I just need to shut up and put on my mask, right? But you see, that's the problem. I'm allowed to question. I'm allowed to think. And that's why this is considered dissident and subversive behavior. These terms come from the communist totalitarian regime. You've really got to understand what's going on right now. But I want to say this just so I can pivot back into what's all going on. I think that's the easiest way for me to encapsulate it. That New Age mysticism, like the hippie movement, man, like the New Age movement, like the drugs is like it does, like all that stuff. Like the New Age mysticism was designed to rob us of our foundations while radically replacing our politics. And that's where we're at right now. Like, that's why we should have free love, right? That's why you have people saying pedophilia is just a sexual orientation, right? Because it's delusional thinking. That's what I'm saying. We are living in the previous generation's degeneracy. And if we allow it, so will our children. And we can't have that, can we? We cannot have that. I'm going to just type it in right here real quick. You know what? I'm going to type in communism's goals, and then I'm going to read to you real quick an article that came up from your Newswire or News Punch that talked about 3 mothers selling their children to pedophiles for drugs. Yeah, right here. News Punch by Baxter Dimitri. They put this up yesterday. It says 3 mothers are arrested in Idaho. Oh, Idaho. I'm not a hoe. I am in a happy relationship. I'm not a hoe. 3 mothers arrested in Ohio for giving their kids to pedophiles in exchange for drugs. Jesus. And you should look at these meth heads. I shouldn't say that. That's dehumanizing. You should look at these ladies. It says 9 people have been indicted on an array of sickening pedophilia and child sex trafficking charges related to an Ohio pedophile ring that allegedly gave illegal drugs to young mothers in exchange for sexual access to their children. It says the pedophile ring investigation first made headlines in March when Larry Dean Porter, 69, of Wheelersburg, Ohio, and several others, including 3 local mothers, were arrested in connection with allegedly sexually molesting several children as young as 3 years old. According to a Department of Justice announcement, Larry Porter was arrested with the help of Jackson County Sheriff's Office after a sting in which he allegedly offered, via FedBook, to pay $80 to molest a 7-year-old girl. You know, this week, girlfriend's calling me. This past week, I played a video from a Dark Universe 09's page. It got removed a day after, but it was of a father recording his interactions with his daughter. Now, the daughter, she's got to be no more than like a couple years, dude. Father's over there just like, oh, like, he's like, oh, I need to, he recorded his daughter saying that she likes to touch him and that he likes to touch her. And I'm like, I blew up. I blew up on the show. Like, I'm trying to finish this thought to explain my other trajectory thoughts. But I think I'm legitimately like disgusted with this perverted behavior. You get me? Like, we've had on Dr. John A. King, who is an anti-human trafficking expert. We've had on Hunted and Confronted, who are pedophile hunters. We've had on multiple people to explain the epidemic that is child sex trafficking. And some of the stuff that's coming out now, it tears my gut up. And I don't know what it's about. You know, I've done a show with our co-host, Lori Alexandria of the Underground Resistance Network and the Global Watchman News. We've done a show with somebody who is a victim not only of MK Ultra, but of also satanic ritual abuse. We were able to check her credentials and everything. And some of the stuff that she was even telling me doesn't come into contact with the disgusting stuff that's coming out now. The timer just popped down. It's telling me I got like 1 minute and 54 seconds left. I'm going to close out playing this clip of this video from Epstein's Island. Look at this. These are little girls inside of one of these temple rooms on Little St. James Island. Look at this. Isaac Cappy, he was I guess a Hollywood celebrity. He's from out here in New Mexico. He released this video just before he jumped off of a bridge. Just before he died, he had released this video. And yes, precisely, Jose, this is Cappy's Dead Man Switch. And for people, audio listeners, I'll describe it to you. What you're essentially seeing is what looks to be like an altar underground with pillars circling some type of podium or some type of stance. It's very, very ritualistic and very, very creepy. There's girls holding urns, filling them. It's very, very strange. And so whenever I come before you guys explaining this and breaking this down, it's because I'm looking at this stuff getting frustrated. We got all kinds of other topics to talk about. We've got about 40 seconds left. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, maybe we'll finish some of these topics, talk about UFOs and stuff and more on the other side. I want to say thank you very much for joining us. Sorry I ranted and got a little bit frustrated. That's sometimes how these things go. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have your guys' questions and more on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. This is Freedom Faction over here on Factions of Freedom. The page, not the podcast, right? And we'll be right back right after this. Salutations, people. Salutations. I hope the background music doesn't disturb you. That's definitely not my intention. Salutations, my friends. You got Vince by Vince, his song Deep Dive, bringing us in. Fire. Fire. Yeah, before coming on, before you guys, I posted about Google eyeing smart tattoos that turns your skin into a touchpad. Yeah, skin marks, that's what they call it. Mark of the Beast style technology being gradually rolled out in our time frame. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. Yeah, before we went to break, I was getting progressively more upset about pedophilia. I didn't even get to talk about communism's goals and stuff like that. I was getting angry about just the evil nature of society today, and how like sex is always tied to it in some weird way. For people that are joining us right now, before we went to break, I was talking about 3 mothers arrested in Ohio for giving their kids to pedophiles in exchange for drugs, and I wanted to use that as an example to extrapolate how that happens basically worldwide. So with that being said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into this edition and this segment. It's Tuesday, which means it's Instagram Crew Day. We are over here on Factions of Freedom, the podcast page, because on our primary news page, Freedom Faction, we are censored until August 8th for talking about just this. Yeah. I think what was the most recent thing they took down this morning, I think, was how a Yale professor said that hydroxychloroquine is the key to beating COVID-19. They took that down and threatened our page. So these are the type of strikes we get, and why we have to innovate instead of just complain and hate. In this segment, we will be taking your guys' calls, your questions. Really, ooh, yeah. You're also very right about that, Kid Alex. Really trying to talk more about what's going on. Kid Alex 88 says that big tech is also getting into real estate. Very correct. We spoke about that a couple weeks ago, how because of this eviction crisis that is going to be coming, you're going to have big tech running through, buying up all of these different communities. You thought gentrification was bad before. Wait until you have like Google and Silicon Valley like investing in real estate. It's a very real thing. So yeah, in this segment, we're going to be trying to finish up talking about the goals of communism. I'll try to stay away from pedophilia, the goals of communism, and we'll talk about sex trafficking and UFOs, and then I'm sure people will join in with questions and guests, and we'll take it from there. So, I looked up what are communist goals. We got a comment. I'll read the comment, and then I'll read about communism. Jassy C says that the ruling class wants this world as their playground, and to hell with most of the rest of us. But obviously, they will keep our kids for various reasons. Yeah. There's this. I've been watching Star Trek on Pluto TV, and there's this episode where these aliens come in from a different world. They're far advanced. They have all these cool tricks and stuff. They're much more advanced than Starfleet, than the Federation. And they're like, hey, we can give you some of our technology. All we need is your kids. And so the dilemma is that's barbaric. How have you guys been able to exist running around kidnapping people's children across the galaxy? And so what Jassy C is saying is just that's a trope. That's what these people do. They'll kill us, they'll dispense with us, they'll do whatever they choose. But it's our kids that they want. So very, very important, Jesse C. So let's talk about the Communist Manifesto, or at least, what are the goals of communism? And staying away from pedophilia. It says the Communist Manifesto, according to communist writers and thinkers, the goal of communism is to create a stateless, classless society. Communist thinkers believe that this can happen if the people take away the power of the bourgeoisie, the ruling class, which own the means of production, and establish worker control of the means of production. You know what's crazy is as I look at this, and there's so many more things to society than just like a binary approach. And so when they talk about this, it's a very boiled down way of looking at how society is. You're not thinking of the people on the fringe of society. You're not thinking of I forget what word is called. It's not the Uber. He has a specific word for what he calls the dregs of society, the people on the fringe, the destitute, the people who are broken. You have to account for those because they have to be there in society. But it's very interesting looking at just the thought process behind communism. But let me continue on. It says, what are the goals? What are the main goals, right, of communism? And this comes from Wikipedia. They say, creating a stateless and classless society. The two main goals are just that, creating a stateless society and a classless society. I want to read a little bit of this, and then we'll continue on breaking this stuff down. But I think it's important that we talk about this because we've got to ask ourselves, in the pro-human Renaissance-based future that we're always ranting and ranting about, where does that fit in? You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and the 8 steps to communism. I'm going to have to come back and do like a whole separate thing on this, where we go over this, because I do want to get this on record, but it is important, and I don't want to botch it. The 8 steps to communism. They say healthcare. If you control healthcare, you control the people. Poverty. Increase the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control, and they will not fight back if you provide everything for them. This is exactly what we talked about in the previous segment with you guys. Debt. Increase the debt level to an unsustainable level. That way you are able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. What I was saying beforehand still. Gun control. Remove the ability to defend people from themselves, from the government. That way you're able to create a police state. That's the weird inverted logic behind the whole defund the police mindset. They want to get rid of the police so they can become the police. You imagine Black Lives Matter, Antifa over here trying to tell you like how to live, that you're not virtue signaling hard enough, so you got to get out the community. Welfare, debt cards, EBTs, stuff like this. Take control of every aspect. Food, housing, income, right? Isn't that what they're asking for? Free education, free housing, right? Free money, universal basic income. Take control of every aspect of their lives, because that will make them fully dependent upon the government. Education. Take control of what people read and listen to, and take control or what children learn in school. And that will this is everything we talked about in the previous segment, but we're just having to reiterate it in this one. Religion. Oh, number 7, religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and schools, because the people need to believe in only the government knowing what is best for the people. What is this? Is this North Korea? I gotta stop right there, because I'm a very spiritual person. And when I look at, again, steps towards communism, I look at what's going on in China, man. I shouldn't have readily accessible facts about China destroying churches, burning Bibles, ripping up coffins out of graveyards, installing Communist Party officials into the church, rewriting the 10 Commandments and replacing them with President Xi Jinping quotes, rewriting the Bible so that it's more communistically approved. And even whenever that's not enough, I think this happened, we posted about it just the other day, even when that's not enough, make sure you take these people who have these fundamental roots in religion, take them to what are now called thought transformation centers. It's a very real thing. We've reported on it, and we've talked about it, and we mention it every time we talk about the dangers of communism. Kerry Wedler of the Anti-Media summed it up perfectly, saying that the most dangerous religion is statism, communism. The fact that there will be no other belief than in the state and in government. That's why they say God Emperor Trump is going to save us. Hashtag trust the plan. We're just on step number 7. Let's continue on right here. 8, class warfare. Divide the people into wealthy and the poor. Eliminate the middle class. This will cause more discontent, and it will be easier to tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. That's where we're at right now. That's why you can't go get, that's why small businesses can't get paycheck protection programs and stuff like that. But Jeff Bezos can just get basically uploaded thousands of millions upon millions of dollars. They're getting rid of the middle class. Remember what people who are tuning in now, I was talking about in the previous segment, how when the first world stops working, the third world suffers. A lot of the people within the middle class are the mom and pop store owners, the entrepreneurs, the hard workers, the go-getters, the people like myself that want to figure out a way to employ people to build an infrastructure. Complex infrastructures require complex systems, which require complex things to get done. You start simplifying things, you start making people stupid, they're not going to teach themselves anything new. You get rid of the middle class, you effectively destroy the ability and the incentive that people have to pull themselves up from the bootstraps to become wealthy, to send their daughter to school, to send their child to college, to get that boat. You get what I'm saying? This is communism. You're not allowed to be wealthy. You're not allowed to be an individual. You can't think for yourself. This is why this is so dangerous. You get me? This is what I mean by the cultural subversion that is taking place. I got all Twitter pated talking about these 3 mothers selling their kids for drugs. I couldn't even bring myself to explain the threat that is communism and why we need to call it out today. And again, talk about what values, right? What values, what morals. What do we want to bring into this new world order? It's not about running away from the new world order. It's here. We need to figure out what we're doing now that it's here. Do we actually want to be virtuous? Do we want to be righteous? Do we want to be wholesome? Do we want to be chivalrous? Do we want to care? Are we going to protect our kids? If we're not even protecting them in the womb, hell no, they're not going to be protected once they get out. See how volatile the world is? So I need to move this picture away of these addicts selling their children. Disgusting. Let me read this, and I think this will be a good way for me to kind of switch into talking about sex trafficking and child sex trafficking and stuff like this as well. Right here, China seizes children from Christian parents, threatens to send kids to re-education camps. This comes from Ricky Scapara. We put this up July 27th. It's from End Times Headlines. And I'm sure you guys can understand what I'm about to read. When I'm talking to you about them labeling Christians as religious extremists, that's what they label Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims in China. Because man's law is government, right? God's law, which is immutable law, which is natural law, which is everything we're existing in here. It doesn't matter whatever you say. You can't. There is no law that can give you freedom. You get what I'm saying? So whenever you have people who are devout and not necessarily addicted to their religion, but care more about God's law than abiding by man's law, they're going to call them religious extremists. They're going to say, hey, these people can't be converted. We need to send them to, what? Re-education camps. And if we can't send the family, well, guess what? We'll send the kids. And so then just like that, you got an entire generation of kids that think, wow, my mom and dad is crazy. I need to turn them in. And these are the kids that we hope actually get sent to the re-education camps, the ones that don't get trafficked, right? for the evil and wicked and satanic people out there who are just like, oh my God, this is a Christian baby? I can't wait to sacrifice it. This comes from a God-fearing family? Oh, thank Lucifer. You've got to think about the people we're up against, my friends. This is organized evil. So here, let me read to you about how China is seizing children from their parents, their Christian parents, and threatening to send those kids to re-education camps because give it a couple years, it'll come here. This is a communistic approach. That's what I'm saying. They don't want religion. They don't want you to have anything other than them. They want you to be solely dependent upon them for everything. And I guess because I gave up faith in this system a long, long time ago. It says in the latest draconian crackdowns on Christians in China, the Communist Party is now threatening to send children to government re-education camps or remove them by force from their adopted parents. The shocking report comes from a member of China's Early Rain Covenant Church, according to the Christian Post. According to the report, a video that was released on Wednesday alongside a new report by international Christian concern Liao Qiang, who is a member of ERCC in Chengdu, who is warning that extreme persecution is continuing in China. In the video released, Qiang stated that his family was forced to leave China and flee to Taiwan with his extended family, quote, because the Chinese Communist Party is limitless in its persecution. Quote, they not only threatened us, normal adult, normal church members, but they threatened our children, Qiang said. Quote, some of our members have adopted children, and the CPC forcibly sent the adopted children back to the original family. That is the main reason why we fled China, because we can't guarantee our adopted children would not be taken away by them. Qiang reported that the communist officials forcefully removed 4 adopted children from one ERCC family, returned them to their biological parents, and eventually dispersed them among other homes. This is a living tragedy, Qiang said. Quote, their constant oppression made me feel we must flee China because our children are the most important to us. The Christian Post went on to state that, quote, an earlier report from the ICC documented authorities' forced removal of children from the home of church members Pie Wenju and Jing Jian. CCP officials told them after their adoption papers were no longer valid because their children were gone, trapped by an evil religion. Trapped! They say Christianity is evil! It says, quote, in addition to seizing children from their Christian parents, the CCP also threatened to send Christian children to government re-education camps and ordered parents to refrain from enrolling their children in church schools, Qiang said. You guys go look this up. Go type it in. Thought Transformation Center. And this is happening now. Right? This will happen. This is another aspect of the social credit score system. This is being deployed in China. They're just saying, you know what? We see people are reacting negatively to this. We'll come at it from the religious angle. You see how these crazy Christians are? They teach them about this thing called the Bible. They're so silly, those Christians. It's like they talk about a mark of the beast or something. Huh? it's like, what, bro? It's like, wow, where are you? Have you been, it's just crazy to think that people could literally be so delusional that they miss these types of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a guest, and then I'll get into sex trafficking, pedophilia, and stuff like that. Let's get a guest on, and then we'll continue from there. Dude. Maybe. Every time I'm trying to press. Okay. Okay. That's cool. Every time I'm trying to press one of these requests, it wants to act. It wants to act up. Okay. Great. Great. Marvelous. So the button won't even work. And we're unable to pull people in here. That's marvelous. That is marvelous. We're able to pull up our questions, which is good. We're able to send this to anybody if they were there, but because of our previous guest that we tried to add, it's not letting it happen. Huh. Okay. Well, for the sake of time, shucks, man, I really look forward to talking to you guys during these second periods. I won't lie to you. For the second hour, I guess we'll just have to continue on with these topics and kind of see where we go from there. Hugo, turn up your sound because it's already up on my end. There's nothing more I can do for you, my friend. Maybe close and come back into the show, and we'll pick up back from there. Okay. So I briefly just got done reading to you guys about how China is seizing children, seizing Christian children from their parents just because. And so when we begin to talk about child sex trafficking, human trafficking, satanic ritual abuse, all of these different types of things, you've got to look at the vector points for this. How can children be kidnapped at such an alarming rate? I can look it up right now. How many children go missing every single day, every single month, every single year that we don't talk about? That is the real epidemic. We are having our future stolen, and we have no idea where it's going. No idea. But here, let's speak a little bit more about this, about the culture that would invite something like sex trafficking, like pedophilia, like Pizzagate. Okay. Before the break, we were talking, about living in the previous generation's degeneracy, right? I agree, Jesse. Apathy is the epidemic. I was talking about how we were living in the previous generation's degeneracy, the cultural warfare aspect of this, the fact that again, millions of kids can go missing year after year and nobody seems to care. Better yet, we will actually aid, not necessarily in the disappearance of children, but in the destruction thereof through things like abortion and so much more. Let's talk about this. Sex trafficking, man. I wish I could pull up some recent article that could explain how this is a very real epidemic. Oh, there it is right here. Here's one. Cop admits to running sophisticated child porn network using mobile apps. Yeah, Sergeant James Robert Weissman, the fourth of Baltimore, is running a child porn networking system using mobile apps. So how could child sex trafficking occur there? These are supposed to be the people that are supposed to protect and serve us, yet he's over here being a diddler taking pictures of children. So there's two institutions right there that I've told you are already corrupt. One, where you have China kidnapping people who don't agree with their political beliefs, right? And a cop saying, you know what, that little baby girl over there looks cute, I'm gonna take a picture of her. That's two institutions right there. How can child sex trafficking occur at such a monumental level? Is because it's systemic, man. One of the biggest servers. You want to find child porn, it'll lead you back to the Pentagon. People say, oh, you can find a lot of child porn on the dark web and stuff like this. You can find a lot of child porn on the servers over at the Pentagon as well, because it's used as a form of currency. That's the sick world that we're in right now. Talks about this too in the Bible, that in the end days, they're going to traffic in men's souls. We're going to trade people like we trade Pokemon cards. That's what I came before you guys just last week talking about. How Antifa created a wanted list, a Pokemon card of me. That's where we're at right now. This cop taking pictures, selling children. Look at the epidemic. It's just gotten more sophisticated. That's why I tell you, whenever Juneteenth went down, dude, slavery didn't end, it just evolved. Who's making your iPhone? You get me? Let me pull up this clip that we were playing before we went to break. It was Isaac Cappy's Dead Man Switch. This is of children literally in some ritualistic altar area doing strange things. God knows only what. God knows only what those children were doing there and where their family were. I can't even. I gotta get this off the screen. The problem is exactly what Blessed Prabal says, that Pornhub is a medium for child trafficking. The problem is that we've embraced this degeneracy, right? There's no marriage is borderline archaic, right? Can't say mother, can't say woman, can't say girl, because you'll offend somebody. Men don't want to be men, women don't want to be women. We all want a gender bend. Nothing gets done. We've embraced this degeneracy. We haven't transformed. We haven't evolved. We haven't grown. We've degenerated. We have devolved. And that's why cops are like, hell yeah, let me talk to some of my buddies and take pictures of children, bro. Yes. Mr. James Robert Wiseman IV. Look at the culture, my friends. Look at the world that we're saying is okay. Hypersexualizing our children. Don't even get me started on drag queen story time, right? This is what I mean by embracing this level of delusion. It really is beyond me. Right here, police bust powerful Italian sex cult that abused children for 30 years. They tried to recruit the elites. And now you got Tom Hanks and his wife running to Greece to become citizens so his ass doesn't get snatched up. It's like, you've really got to think about what's going on. This is what I mean by the demoralization that's taking place, the deconstruction that has happened over time, the fact that we don't uphold these values, that we don't have standards, that we don't care to have morals. That's what I'm saying. We don't want to be wholesome. We don't want to be decent. We don't want to be righteous. That's too much work. It's too hard. It's just too hard. It's easier for us to talk smack about people, belittle others, than for us to look in the mirror, pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and say, I will get this done. This is what I choose to do. This is what I would like to contribute to the overall global discussion that is happening as far as the human race. You see, and you can even say that is part of this as well, that we are reaching this point where people are giving up on their nations, on their people, on, again, these foundational principles that help build up society. They're giving up on these things, purposely having them destroyed so that they can be reconstructed for the global citizen, for the new world order, for the one world religion. I just said right there that I'd like to contribute my work to the global discussion over, right, of where humanity is going. I'm sure there's millions and thousands of other people who are having the very same thoughts, but not in the way that I'm having them. They're saying, you know what? America's dead. The countries are dead. Governments are dead. We can't do this anymore. I want to commit myself to that greater global citizen movement. That's where we're at right now. I'm doing it from like an American perspective, trying to hold out as hard as I can before you see them take it away. This is where we're at right now, you see. But this is that culture, right? Not embracing degeneracy, not embracing the destruction of society, the dehumanization that's taking place, not embracing that, but exalting real virtues, seeking peace, seeking truth, hoping that you can find justice in a world like this gone mad and lawless. But this is what I mean. We've embraced and tolerated this degeneracy for so long. And I remember saying this before we went to the break, or before we took our 2-week break, that our minds have become so accustomed to seeing chaos, lawlessness, degeneracy, that we're almost expecting it, that we're borderline wanting it, that that we've been so far off from the opposite of whatever degeneracy is that we don't even understand it. That's the power of words. They remove these things, they remove these virtues from society so that a vacuum is formed. That's what I was meaning beforehand, with New Age mysticism robbing us of our rights, us voluntarily giving away our foundations, only for radical politics to fill that vacuum and that void. Does this make sense? We've been broken down. And we're having our views, we're having our consent manufactured and our opinions crafted and given to us. But I'm sure you're wondering, well, how the hell does this all tie into sex trafficking? How does this tie into to pedophilia, Pizzagate? You gonna let drag queen story time get in front of your kids? Get in front of your nephew? Get in front of your niece? Huh? Are you at least gonna speak up on it and say, hey, listen, I'm gonna take my baby to a parade instead of sit here and let her watch this person with obvious mental issues carry on in this fashion. I'm gonna do something else. I'm just gonna give my dollar, my attention, my energy, my time to something else. Or are we just gonna go along with it? You see? Because I had this revelation too, and this ties into pedophilia and the child sex trafficking and all of it, dude. These people are unable to procreate. They're unable to actually have children because it is like an actual, it doesn't make sense. You need a man and a wife. Pedophiles can't have kids because, well, they would diddle them. And the only way that the pedophiles procreate is by sexualizing other children. You create more pedophiles by letting pedophiles procreate. You get what I'm saying? It's like you're asked. We always ask the question: who allowed for this type of stuff to happen? Where did we go wrong? It went wrong somewhere in the chain of protection because someone allowed for this type of stuff to take place. Pedophiles can only procreate by creating more pedophiles. So if we let pedophiles have access to our children, they too will sexualize them, and our children will go on creating more pedophiles. This has to be something that has to be explained. This can't be just allowed. You see what I'm saying? But again, this is that culture embracing the degeneracy, rationalizing to ourselves that yes, we should let a full-grown man rob a child of their innocence. That's actually another communistic goal, right? We talked about that, the destruction of the nuclear family. Yeah, you see, pedophiles believe that they can show children the ultimate love. Mm-hmm. They think that no mother and father could ever effectively love the child the way that they could. So they believe in the communistic goal of abolishing the nuclear family. They want to get rid of the family because they think they can actually help or help access the potential of that child instead of nurturing it, coddling it like a family would. Like you see what I'm saying? You see the predatory mindset of the pedophile and why it's something that has to be called out and how this culture has allowed for it to go down. Blessed Prabal says, I heard the UN is pushing an agenda of sexual indoctrination class for ages 3 to 5 in Europe. Could be. I know that they're telling people in Europe with mental deficiencies that they're boys or girls depending on the gender. If it's a boy, they're telling her she's a girl, he's a girl. And if it's a girl, they're telling her that he's a guy. This is to confuse these autistic children, these children with obvious mental issues. You've got to ask yourself, why in God's name are they coming after children? What have children done to them? It's what children could do to them. I'll say that one more time. It's not about what did children do. It's what children could do. Precisely, Fresco. They say you can't forget about atrazine. Correct. The gender-bending chemical that is indeed turning the freaking frogs gay. I remember reading this past week while I was freaking out about these pedophiles. I had a flashback to reading an article from the Free Thought Project about them giving children as young as 8 cross-sex hormone treatment. And I'm thinking to myself, good Lord, what are we doing? What are these people doing? Because again, listen, last week there was an article that came out from, I think, the LA Times. It talked about them giving a child that was in the juvenile juvenile detention facility, they gave that boy estrogen shots. They diagnosed that child with ODD, opposition defiant disorder, and said, you know what? Let's give him estrogen shots to try to calm him down. He's very rambunctious. Let's shoot him up with estrogen to calm him down. So the topic is sex trafficking and pedophilia, Pizzagate. They say that shit's a conspiracy theory because they don't want to think about the fact that you could see such organized evil. They say it's a conspiracy theory because people will go out of their way to do the research and to put two and two together. They'll see these people make very strange statements and very, very vague and ambiguous things. Like, I wish, like, some of the stuff that, like, if you guys would go and look at some of the stuff that Chrissy Teigen has said in relationship to babies, about putting them in microwaves and buttering them up and her nipples getting hard and doing strange things in relation to babies. It's like, how did this go unchecked? How does this person feel so comfortable to say obviously sick and perverted and degenerate things, but why is this allowed? Why is Chrissy Teigen over here talking about putting babies in microwaves allowed, but I can't talk about hydroxychloroquine, vitamin C, and all kinds of other things to help people? Why is degeneracy and perversion being accepted into society, but regeneration, cleansing, and purification is being shunned? Be careful, dude. I played for you guys real quick that that clip, Isaac Cappy's Dead Man Switch, of the inside of Jeffrey Epstein's temple, or what I'm assuming is the inside of one of Jeffrey Epstein's temple, and how that ties into child sex trafficking, human trafficking, and more. I told you briefly that they're taking Christian children from parents and putting them into the system. And give it time, I'm sure I could do the very same thing with what's going on over here with CPS, but it's a real thing. Our children are disappearing. There's no other way to say it. I don't know where they're going. But the problem is there's a culture that allows for this to happen. There's a culture that allows for Ohio mothers to traffic their children for drugs, for sexual favors. It's like, good Lord. And so I want to try to switch gears a little bit to move on from this because I'm getting frustrated still. I said I wouldn't talk about pedophilia, yet here I am. Listen to this. I got to do it again. Listen to this. Canada, father who believes COVID-19 is a scandemic loses custody of child. July 20th, signs of the time. So a father who said that COVID-19 is a pandemic, which we're all aware of, lost custody of his child. Who's to say that the mother didn't get involved in that? And she didn't. If you go read the article, it's a purely conversational thing, but you get what I'm saying. This type of thought process that your child isn't yours and it's somehow owned by the state is a very, very dangerous precedent. And that's what leads towards children being trafficked, them being lost. And so I need to switch gears from this. And the best way for me to do that is to talk about, with human trafficking, with slavery, modern day slavery, child sex trafficking and human trafficking, right? They treat these type of people like chattel. Really, really sophisticated people actually end up chipping, microchipping the people that are trafficked, man. Like they treat them as product, as chattel. So they chip them as such. I remember reporting on it a couple years ago. I think it came out from worldtruth.tv. I forget the lady's name, but she talked about that, how her trafficker had embedded like a microchip inside of her. We did like a whole episode on it. And the reason I say this is because the next topic here that somebody wants me to talk about is big banks moving towards cryptos and implants to control the economy. And I felt like the better way for me to speak on that is to talk about how they're beginning to implant government employees. So we've already talked about how there are dark elements of society that are siphoning off essentially our future, the children, who are siphoning off children only for nefarious purposes. And now the public arm of this, of whatever force this is beginning to monitor, categorize, and archive people as if we are ones and zeros. And so, let me pull up this article so I can continue on. Yeah, right. I think this is a better way for me to say it right here. I'll get that up here shortly. It was in Michigan, wasn't it? I'm trying to find the article where it talks about government employees being being microchipped. It's nuts, but here we are. It says right here, China now forcing all citizens to activate health codes on smartphones for restaurant and store access. Only a green code will let you in. And right here is this next article. We put this up July 22nd. This comes from World Truth TV. It's by Eddie Levine. It says House passes bill to voluntarily begin placing human implantable microchips into the bodies of all state government employees. So we talked about how communism wants to rob people of their rights and individuality only for them to be dependent upon the state. And now we're beginning to talk about how the state wants to begin to implant their employees. Yes, voluntarily. It says Michigan State Representative Breonna Kale sponsored the successful bill, and while the microchips are not widely used throughout the state, she believes they will become standard in the next coming years. Quote, with the way technology has increased over the years and it continues to grow, it's important Michigan job providers balance the interests of the company with their employees' expectations of privacy, said the bill's sponsor, Michigan State's Representative Breonna Kale. Quote, while these miniature devices are on the rise, so are the calls of workers to have their privacy protected. The bill will be introduced to the state Senate where, if it passes, Governor Gretchen Whitmer will be able to sign the legislation into Michigan law. The Michigan House passed a bill making implanted company microchips voluntary for employees, according to a local ABC News report. People have been placing human implantable microchips into their bodies for some years now, and we have chronicled that all over the years. Now, the state of Michigan has passed a bill that will call for all state government employees to receive microchips inside their bodies. Implanting government employees with microchips. And this is I'm sure people are wondering, how does this tie into the sex trafficking and all this other stuff? This is all underneath the topic branch, the category of talking about what the Illuminati does. This is me trying to figure out how to explain, hey, you're worried about child sex trafficking? You need to be worried about them trying to traffic you. Oh, you're worried about this? You need to see what they're doing over here. Big banks are moving towards cryptos. It's called Fed coins. The dollar is collapsing, and they're having to come up with an alternative form of finance. They're moving to cryptos. They're moving to cashless society. That's why they're telling you right now. America's how's the joke go? It's like, didn't you hear about the coin shortage? It's like, well, America's out of common sense. They're telling you that there's a coin shortage because they're getting you used to everything either being exact change or done online. They don't want you to have money as part of that black market, right? You get what I'm saying? Remember what I was talking about beforehand with the middle class and how that basically is the backbone for the third world, and how, American spirit of just producing so much and creating excess that we give to everyone else. That's what the dollar is. That's disposable income. That's you being able to do whatever you want with your dollars, finance people like us, choosing what you want to do. They get rid of that market. They get rid of that black market, people being able to vote with their dollars and vote with their lifestyle, to where you have to be on their systems, marked, tracked, and implanted, they get rid of people's ability to create their own economy. You get what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. So yes, you're going to have big banks moving towards cryptos and implantable microchips because it's an easier way to control people. If I say I get shut down, right? I'm unable to use my phone or get access to my accounts. The couple of G's I have saved up, that still has somewhat of a monetary value. I can still move around. They don't want that. They want to say, Freedom Faction, he's been talking too much, delete him. Take them off of Instagram, take them off of Bedbook, take them off of YouTube, take them off of Twitter, take them up off of PayPal, take them up off of all of these platforms. They want to be able to get it online so I can't be a threat in the real world. If I start thinking about ways to both operate in the hybrid warfare we're experiencing, both with digital and physical, I can be a force. But if they remove that physical, I'm solely on their playing ground. I hope to God that makes sense. That's just one way to look at it. We're not even talking about the fact that this is like literally prophetic. We're talking about microchips, mark of the beast style technology. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that because they, again, communistic goal to remove religion from the modern nomenclature so that when this stuff starts to happen, we can't use words like prophetic. We can't say, hey, this was talked about in the Bible. This is that mark of the beast style thing. I think I heard some of those wacky Christians, you know, that lady whose child you took. I think I could have swore I heard her talk about this. Why are you guys taking her kid? I think what she has to say is like actually pretty legit. I don't think she's a religious extremist. I think it's kind of strange that this was written 2,000 years ago and we're kind of living it today. I don't think that's kind of strange, don't you think? I don't think her saying it's strange. But you see, that's the world that we're living in. They want to be able to destroy your ability to educate yourself and empower other people. That's why this is so crazy. Is because, again, let me read you this while we're talking about China, talk about the mark of the beast, implanting government employees with microchips. I'll read the article headline again. China is now forcing all citizens to activate the health code on their smartphones for restaurants and store access. Only a green code will let them in. We put this up literally 4 days ago. It was like monumental. People were like, oh my God, this is nuts. This is crazy. And then today, there's over here on End Times Headlines, I'll post it up as soon as I get up off the live with you guys. It says there's a new app that tells if you've been exposed to COVID. And so here, let me just go ahead and just skip all that. There's a new feature in your phone, if you've got a iPhone like myself, where it says COVID exposure. And so what's going to happen is when you download that new app, the same way that they have to activate this health code on their phone, it's going to interface with this new extension that's been privately installed into your phone to authorize you to leave your house. Yeah. So even if you don't get the mark of the beast, you're still going to have the mark of the beast. They're going to allow you to leave. So you're going to have a lot more people jailbreaking technology. I'm going to be looking forward to that and talking about that because you can't stop freedom. But this is where we're at. This is the technocracy. This is COVID 1984. This is the new world order. This is the new world order. This is why we have to expose these things and explain them, because that's how control works, and that's how the dark side works. That's how dark side deceptions work. If they can get you into a lie, keep you entranced in this spell, they can further their workings. You get me? So I'm not sure how much time we have left, but I wanted to since we're talking about technology and the advancement of technology and all this other crazy stuff, I wanted to talk about UFOs. UFOs, the alien agenda, things of this nature. Because we've been having a lot of information come out as far as UFOs. And I find that very, very interesting. One of the things I tell people all the time with the show, if you guys listen, and I wish we had more people send us paranormal stories, is we came into this through like the paranormal and the supernatural aspect. We came into this looking for ghosts and UFOs. We evolved into the position that we're in today. That's why you guys see me freak out, is because I'm not political. I try not to be. That's why you see me discovering or looking into stuff like communism and Marxism and fascism and socialism. I'm like, what the hell? I don't understand that. Are you talking about TR3Bs, like UFOs and stuff? Like Pleiadians, reptilians? No? No, you want full control of the government? Oh, okay. Well, what about Hollow Earth? Does that sound interesting to you? No, you want to destroy families? Okay. Well, I think I'll go over here. And that's where this is at. So to see us come full circle, again, with UFOs and things like that being talked about, it's very, very interesting because I did find the UFOs and more. But here, let me briefly read to you guys this article headline, and I'll get a little bit more reconfigured. It says, New York Times reveals the existence of the Pentagon UFO program that never went away. It's by Paul Seaburn over there at Mysterious Universe. They put that up July 24th. And this next one comes from Baxter Dimitri over there at News Punch. It says, the Pentagon UFO report mentions the discovery of off-world vehicles not made on this earth. I find that so fascinating for a number of reasons. For a number of reasons. So cool. I can't tell if it's a psyop, that's for sure. I think we're all aware of like the UFO agenda, Project Bluebeam, the ability that they have to kind of project images live time. And I think people don't think things like this are going to happen, that we couldn't be false flagged by a psyop like this. But then look at things like COVID 1984, right? People don't think that they could stage a worldwide alien invasion, but didn't COVID-19 take over the world? Let me read a little bit of this and then we'll continue on talking about recent UFO Pentagon disclosures. It says, despite the Pentagon statements that it has disbanded a once covert program to investigate UFOs, the effort remains underway. Renamed and tucked inside the Office of Naval Intelligence, where officials continue to study mystifying encounters between military pilots and unidentified aerial vehicles. The blockbuster UFO revelation, hinted to in leaks to the mainstream media and the UFO research community, was made public last night, and it was, to say the least, somewhat underwhelming. Despite quotes about, quote, off-road vehicles not made of this earth, reporters Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keane reveal their best card right up front. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force is actually the renamed Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, whose funding ended in 2012, but allegedly stayed operational for a number of years. The UAP Task Force made its official debut on June 17th, 2020, in the Intelligence Authorization Act of the fiscal year for 2021, submitted to the Senate by Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who earlier this week said in the public that he personally hopes UFOs are otherworldly and not secret planes from China, which is the operative thing right there. He hopes that they're otherworldly and that they're not secret planes from China. Because ironically enough, just last year I talked about how, and I forget like what the craft name was, but China did begin to release some photos of their spacecrafts, man. And I'm not saying these are spacecrafts that are going to go to Mars or Jupiter or the moon or stuff like this. These are low orbit crafts that are hovering around us. And I know a lot of this stuff sounds kind of crazy, but the very same way that I'm explaining the New World Order, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Satanists, all this stuff, is the very same way that I've kept my foot on the pedal, my foot on the gas, looking at UFOs and stuff like this. Now, what I'm trying to explain by switching up about these topics is explaining the different phase of the agenda that we're in. Whenever COVID-19 happened, the easiest way for me to kind of conceptualize it was to explain to people that as they begin to launch the Space Force, as they begin to deploy their geospatial intelligence, as they begin to go through this whole worldwide domination procedure, you're going to see them launch themselves into space, release the bioweapon, destroy lots of the population so that they can come back down and begin to manage us. And I know that's kind of like that's a far out statement, but when you combine things like the Space Force, Saudi Arabia launching their own spacecraft, China beginning to get involved in aerospace technology and things like this as well, you've got to look at what's happening. They're using space as a new domain, a new war-fighting domain. That's what I mean by the geospatial intelligence. That's why Elon Musk is sending up all kinds of satellites. That's a whole military-industrial complex. There's a whole separate breakaway civilization literally being created while we're bickering about race, creed, color, and nonsense. And that's what I was focusing on. That's where I come from, is looking at what all is happening behind society as we're upset about colors and stupid stuff. Where is the advancement of technology? Where is the advancement of where society is actually going? Precisely, Simi Chavez. She says, Gundam fight, ready and go. And that's precisely why I posted it. I'll give a little context for our audience, because I am a nerd and I am unapologetic in showing it to you guys. Just last week, I had posted how a 60-foot tall walking Gundam had become operational, not in China, but in Japan. And so I kind of thought that was super cool and crazy at the same time, that this is that next phase. We're having mechas, we're having advanced technology, we're having AI. These are the robot wars, man. Like this is where we're going. So as humans become like obsolete, and you see them destroy and dehumanize us, you see them at the same time trying to replace and transform us into something else. This is tongue-in-cheek why sometimes you guys hear me say that the future requires the best of us, because in the future they're going to begin to genetically modify us, they're going to enhance us. They're doing it, they're already conducting weird forms of human experimentation, with the COVID-19 and the social engineering and the brainwashing and the mind control. But in the future, they're going to be doing a lot more stuff. I can guarantee you that. The timer just popped down and it's letting me know that I have about a minute and 45 seconds. I'm sorry that this button didn't want to work. I'm sorry that the button didn't want to work with me this time. If it's not one thing, it's something. I will be again with you guys next week on the same channel, on the same page, over here on Factions of Freedom, because Instagram won't let us be over there on Freedom Faction. And to be quite honest, I actually prefer smaller groups and smaller audiences, because we're able to keep more focused. There's a lot of chatter in the chats whenever there's a lot more people. So to begin to close things out, I want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into this edition. I'm sorry we were all over the place. I tried to make it as concise and to the point as possible, while at the same time being educational and informative. The days are getting crazy, friends. And the little bit that I can do for you guys, I wish I could do more. And week after week, we're all getting better. And all I can do is hope that the trials you see me go through inspire you to take the steps that are necessary to make yourself better. Because you guys have helped me more than I care to admit. That's the sad truth. More than I care to admit. So I want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be seeing you again next week, Lord willing, coronavirus free. And remember, guys and gals, stay vigilant. Expose lies and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.